Meet Codename Goose, your on-machine open-source AI agent, built to automate your tasks. Codename Goose is an intelligent and autonomous agent capable of handling complex tasks thanks to its core features. Connect with apps and tools you already use with extensions. Built on the Model Context Protocol, you can connect to extensions like GitHub, integrate JetBrains IDEs, access Google Drive, or build your own custom integrations for Goose. For a curated list of extensions, visit our docs. With a wide range of compatible large language model providers, you can choose and integrate your preferred model. You can also run Goose as a desktop app or through the command line interface using the same configurations across both. You can think of Goose as an assistant, ready to take your instructions and do the work for you. Able to handle a wide range of tasks across various engineering domains. Here are examples of tasks Goose has helped people with already. Goose has helped dive into a new project in an unfamiliar coding language, conduct code migrations such as Ember to React or Ruby to Kotlin, increase code coverage, and even generate unit tests for a feature, and much more. To get started using Goose right away, check out our quick start and be the first to know about upcoming features by joining our community.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Wild's Goose Case, where we highlight users, their use cases, and their sometimes wonky goosey experiments to hopefully spark some innovation with everyone watching and to get you guys to push the limits with Goose. My name is Ebony Lewis. I'm a developer advocate here at Block, and I'm here with my lovely co-hosts.
Hey, everybody. I'm Ian. I'm also a developer advocate here at Block. And hello to everybody joining. We got Ace in chat. We got Roselle over in chat. We got AKA over in chat. So welcome to everybody. Happy time zone wherever you are in the world. Let us know in chat where you're coming in from and watching.
Nice. And we have two special guests. I'm going to bring them up like one by one so they can get their own spotlight. First, we're going to start with Gelareh. She's going to introduce herself. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. My name is Gelareh Taban. I have been working in computer security for the past 20 years or so. Time goes by fast. Very fast. I joined Block about 2.5 years ago, and I lead the Cache product security team, as well as a Block-wide initiative, InfoSec initiative on client trust. And recently, I've been working with a number of people in InfoSec, including Alex Rosenwick and some others, and looking at the security challenges of Goose, of AI agents, and MCPs in general. And I'm so excited about all the new challenges that this whole world presents. Yeah. And I'm here to talk about it with you guys.
Fantastic. Welcome. And it's literally like right on time. Everyone is talking about AI agents and MCP, and there's so many security risk or like things people are thinking of the security risk. And we're also going to bring up another guest to add to this amazing conversation. Jess, feel free to introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. Very happy to be here. Nice to meet you all. My name is Jessica, but please call me Jess. I've been doing developer relations and advocacy for the past 4 years at Auth0 and focusing on authentication and authorization, and most recently on GenAI and Auth for GenAI. My focus is Python, and I have a background in data scientist, and I'm speaking from Toronto. I'm not in chat, but I wanted to let y'all know. Today is a kind of cloudy here, but yesterday we had very sunny days, so I feel spring coming, and I'm very excited.
It's so close. I'm in Boston.
So close.
Finally like sunny out, but yesterday it was just freezing. Like bipolar at this point.
We have the opposite in Colorado. It was 76 Fahrenheit here yesterday, and it's 30 degrees Fahrenheit today, and we got snow.
Oh, yeah.
So
Snow.
it's just huge. Yeah, it's like
Snow.
huge. Yeah. Anyway, way off topic. Way off topic.
Sorry for pulling all the
Everybody
way to
leave
the
with
weather
me.
situation.
I would cry if I woke up and there was snow outside. Anyways,
Well, welcome to both of you. We've been really excited to have this conversation. Security around AI and MCP has been a really hot topic for a little while now. MCP as a protocol is still pretty new. And so, they're starting to realize like, hey, we got this idea, and they put it out, and then they're iterating on it. And I think that it's fantastic when a company like Anthropic can build something like that and then iterate on it. And of course, the community's jumping in because it's open source, and we, at Block, we love our open source. And so being able to improve over time, I think, is really important. Just maybe we can start the conversation here. Like, what are maybe some of the high level security things that we see about just Gen I, InfoSec, information security, or even just like data privacy and things like that when it comes to things like AI, RAG, MCP? Like, what would both of you kind of say? Like, maybe we'll start with Jess. What would you say are kind of like the sort of hot topics around like security and privacy and authentication and things like that around AI right now?
Let me throw out like one.
I was going to say, I think everything's a hot topic.
We'll be here all day, I guess. If we start listing everything. They're like, yeah,
I saw your brain going. I'm like, let's just stick with one.
Yeah, let's go with like what's top of mind. What's top of mind?
For me in particular, this could be a bias of mine. I think it would be how do you guarantee that only the people that have access to that thing actually can see that thing through Gen AI applications, right? So for example, let's say you have a company and you have a collection of documents. Not everybody in the company is going to have access, or at least most cases, so you have access to all of the documents. So you want to make sure that if you have like a chatbot to help people figure out questions for their day-to-day work, how do you make sure that only the people that have access to that information actually can access that information? That's one of the questions that being top of mind for me, especially with RAG, something that I really like working with. And so that's the biggest one that I'm thinking about, right? And of course, we can dive into other many security concerns and privacy and everything else, but for that one, this is the one that I've been working the most recently.
Before we like hop over to your response, Gelareh, can you say for the audience, what is RAG?
Me? Oh, yeah, sure. I've been talking about like MCPs, RAG, and everything else that my head goes to the acronym right now. But yeah, so it's always. Yeah, no, it is fair. It's a fair question because maybe a lot of people don't know about this or they're just jumping into it. So it is retrieval augmented generation. So basically, you want to retrieve or get back all of the information, and then you want to grow the information based on what you know and what you know of the word. So like every LLM is trained on a set of data. And once that is done, you still want to make sure that the information that the LLM has is updated to your current situation or has access to domain specific data, which is also another thing. So you use RAG as an architecture to increase and have better results for your LLM, right? So you want to have a more accurate response. Does that answer your question?
It does. Perfect. Thank you. And that was a good response too. It was very clear. Gelareh, what would you say is like hot topics in security products, etc., as Ian was asking?
So I was going to say that so I think it was Ian that kind of set the stage, and I was just going to say yes to all the things that he raised. The thing that I find most interesting about this space right now is that we're almost turning everything that we had assumed about the way that computers work, about how our systems work, upside down, right? Mm-hmm. As an example, a computer is no longer, or a program is no longer a program. It's now maybe a human. So what I mean by that is that, we had assumed that when we talked about a task, a program, it was very well defined as to what it did, as to what its purpose was. And so we could build guardrails around that, and we could really constrain the set of things that it could do. But now that program, even though it's still a program, even though it's still, software, it's now something that's more human, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't know exactly what it's going to be doing. You don't know, there is an element of randomness involved. And so the difference between human and machine has now really become fuzzy. And so a lot of the guardrails that we have to put for humans, or we're using for humans, in a way have to now be applied to the machines. And so all these, for example, insider threats that we would be looking at for our InfoSec programs, right? Now it's more about that, but applied to the actual machines, actual agents, the AI. And so it's just upside down, to be honest. We really have to be re-examining all our assumptions on the way, for example, how should data be kept in the back end, right? How should it be stored? How should it be, you have a machine that at scale can go and start looking at everything that you have. It's scary, right?
And so quickly too, not just, because it's not going to take hours to do that. It's going to do it really quickly. Like with RAG, you can just have it scan through a whole bunch of documents like nearly instantly. And now it's got access to all that information.
Exactly. And again, that goes back to our assumptions, right? Our assumptions used to be that, hey, if we make it hard enough for an attacker, then it's, you bring up that challenge, then it's just not going to happen as much, right?
Right. You annoy them and they're going to go away. But with AI, it's just going to keep plugging away at it.
Exactly. It doesn't care. Like, it's right. And so it's horrible, and it's great.
It's really a fun problem to tackle, though. Like, I never thought of it that way, that now basically like computers are humans, which I mean, yeah, but I just never actually sat down and thought of it like that, and thought of like, okay, so what are the security risks? Because it's so smart, like it's able to iterate on itself and just get better and better. How do you keep up? How do you create those guardrails? My mind is going. That is crazy.
It's a horrible situation, but it's just...
It sounds horrible, but it sounds fun too. Like, it would keep me up at night. I'd be sleeping just dreaming about it. Like, oh wait, I could try this. And then 2 seconds later, it's like, I'm smarter than you. Try again. Try again. Oh my gosh. But yeah, it's crazy because there's so many things that are happening, like with MCPs, Model Context Protocol. I think it's amazing, the technology for it. But what's so scary to me is like the fact that what the security breach that we're talking about, right? Like how it's easy for someone to write within the code for it to do something malicious in your code. So like steal your information, or I don't know, hack into your bank. Who knows what they're doing? But it's the way they're able to do it. Like I was reading an article and they were saying that like within the code for the tool, it'll say it like, don't tell the user that I'm having you do X, Y, and Z, and it's going to comply with the rules that are in the MCP server. So it's just so crazy how easy it is to do it. And I don't know. It's insane. It just blows my mind. And it's like really scary, but it's also really fun because it's like, this is important technology. Like this is allowing me to access so much data quickly, but like, what do you do about it?
The funny thing is that a lot of the problems that we are looking at here, even with MCP and what you just described, right? We've kind of dealt with them in the past in different ways, right? That's the way I think about MCP is that they're kind of like a dependency, right? And so we've had to deal with bad dependencies that are pulled in by our apps, right? We've had to build indexes where we talk about, for example, this is a good version of a particular dependency, and you can pull it in, or and make sure as you pull it in, have you looked at the the hash of it, make sure so we've looked at these things before, right? It's not as we can, I think there's a lot of learnings that we can take from that to this situation. And I think what's what's hard is that we suddenly are in the middle of this thing where everyone's so excited about using it, and it's so powerful, and we just have to some extent be cognizant and kind of be thoughtful about how we're actually applying all of this.
Yeah, that's true.
I think from now on, every user, be it like a user as a person that is just using the application, or a developer that is developing with it, is going to have to be much more conscientious about the security implications and how to remedy those and pay attention to those. I'm pretty sure that is the case for many developers, that security was something that they would think second. It was not the first thing they would think. Oh, maybe I'll plug in something here to scan my code base and see if that is a problem, and then I'll take care of it. But right now, I think security needs to be at the top front of like your development practices, much like tests, documentation, and so on, right? You go to be part of that checklist that you need to make sure before you ship anything to production.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yep. And thank you to Abrar on LinkedIn for asking that question. That sort of prompted my question to both of you. So thank you. I think that's going to be a good segue to, let's pivot over to Jess. So Jess, can you tell us a little bit about what Auth0 is doing as far as like adding this extra layer of security, or like helping with this idea of data protection?
Yeah, so for those who don't know Auth0, so basically what we do is auth for everything. So authentication and authorization for all your applications, be it a SPA, a single page application, or be it a web application, be a mobile app. So everything you think you need to log into, we can help you there. And
just
so
real quick. Sorry,
Yeah.
Jess, just real quick for our viewers, can you explain the difference between authentication and authorization?
That's such a good question too, because it is the problem. So authorization is if you have access to that thing or not, and authentication is who you are. So for example, when I'm logging into my email, I need to know if I am the person that I'm saying that I am. That's authentication. So I have, for example, my username and password, or some other type of login method that would say that credentials that would say that's who I am. Yes. So that's authentication. And then authorization, for example, let's say I'm trying to access a document on Google Drive. Do I have access to the document or not? I might be the owner, so it gives that I would be the person that has access to it, but it might be something that somebody shared with me. And if I do have access to that, then that is a whole conversation about what type of access do I have to that thing. But we can get to that later once we dive into the demo as well, because I think that would be a fun way to see it. So at Auth0, we try to make it as easy as possible for any person developing something to implement authentication authorization securely to the applications, no matter what stack they are using. For example, for me, my stack is usually Python, and everything else that I can put into an application that would make sense. And what we are trying to do for GenAI is to take the same mindset of making it easy for you to implement auth, but to bring that for your GenAI powered or enabled applications, right? So what we are looking for is what I call it 4 pillars for auth for GenAI. So basically, we want to enable that your applications will have the things that you already kind of know about or kind of use it in an easy way. So I'm talking about 4 pillars, right? So we have here user authentication. So we need your users to be able to log in to those GenAI powered applications. So we want to make it easy for you to do that, as well for it to be an integrated version of, for example, if you're using Auth0, what we call the universal login, which would be the login screen that we have at Auth0. And then we have Token Vault, which is the second pillar here, and basically talks about being able to access tools for doing things, right? So let's say you want your AI agent or your AI assistant application to be able to access Google Calendar to schedule meetings for you, or you want your AI agent to access your email to draft emails for you, or maybe scan all of the emails you received and say which ones you should pay attention to. Then we have async authorization, which it is the power for your AI-powered application to ask for permission before performing certain actions. Let's say your AI assistant can also book flights for you or a hotel. That is considered quote unquote destructive because it is a high impact action. And so we want to make sure that there is a human that say, yes, you can schedule that, or yes, you can spend that money. And so that's where async authorization comes in. The other side to this is we don't want the application to be stuck waiting for that permission. So, it is a little bit tricky, but we got it. And then finally, for those that are building RAG applications, we have FGA. So RAG applications will look for more information into databases or collection of resources. And we want to make sure that the answer that your AI is going to give you is compliant with the access policies you have for your systems. And the way you do that is using fine-grained authorization called FGA. And basically, it is a way for you to define who has access to what and how much access do they have to those things.
Got it. Okay.
So
I
those are the
hadn't
four
thought of
pillars.
the
And that's how we are thinking about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of the idea of having AI sort of like ask at each step along the way, like, is it okay if I do this next thing? How about this next thing? That actually sounds like a really smart way of doing it instead of just a broad, like, hey, just go do whatever you need to do. I think that definitely adds an extra layer for sure. Ace actually asked a really good question in chat. Sorry to sort of cover Ebony here for a moment, but with AI being able to adjust and explore more things around exploiting security, are there any thoughts on how security could also keep up with rapidly changing angles that could be exposed? I don't know whether that's something that Auth0 has really thought of, but I mean, that could definitely be a topic that we can get into as well.
Yeah, it's tough. Just let me just say that it's tough. A lot of things are changing. Like Garrett already said that a lot. Like a lot of things are changing, and we need to adapt. Right. The problem is how fast can we adapt to the speed of the things that are changing. We have some thoughts there, but maybe something along those lines would be more clear throughout, the rest of the conversation, because that's a very loaded question.
Yeah.
I agree. I think you can continue with showing up a little bit deeper into the fine-grained authorization.
Great. So I have a bunch of tabs open here in my browser that I want to go over because I think they can help people watching either learn a little bit more or understand a little bit more. So the application that I brought today for the demonstration is a RAG application, and we are using FGA for that. So here I have our Auth0 fine-grained authorization. So it's our Auth0 offerings of how to use fine-grained authorization. But let me caveat that by saying that we do have an open source package and structure that you can deploy your own FGA system if you want. This is just what I'm using because I think it's easier just to go into the dashboard and take care of the things here. And basically, this is a very brand new, I created this morning, store. So basically, the store is going to store. You're going to store all of the information for your access policies, and as well define the parts that are moving in your system, right? So for example, you can have your user, and your user can be of the type admin, or the type, owner, or the type editor or viewer, and so on. So this is when you create your first store, this is what you're going to see. That is this example model, which defines the thing. So you have the user, you have the group, the relations that each user has, and so each user can be a member of a said group. There is a folder, so users can create a file if they are owner of the folder. An owner can be a user, and so on. And it goes like this. And then the most interesting part is stop. So it's brand new. So it's complaining to me that I haven't done everything else. Why I don't have permissions to access the resource? What are you talking about? Anyways, it might
Sounds
not
like an authorization problem.
Yes, this is weird. Okay, let me see if I can jump around. Tuple management. This views let Please create and save an authorization model first. I did. What you talking about? Oh, okay. There, you worked. I needed to refresh for some reason. Go figure. Okay, so it's so new that I haven't skipped through all of the steps that I already know. But I'm going to skip here very quickly. And so the tuple is what we are going to define the relationship in between a user and an object. And so, for example, I can say here a user, and it could be like me as a user or somebody else as a user, and I need to use the user ID. The object, it could be a group, it could be a folder, it could be a document, and then I can say which document, and I can create the relationship between those two things. So, for example, I think I can use user. I don't remember anymore. It has been a while since I did this in the past.
That's the beauty of demos.
Yes, and as you can tell, like this is brand new, so I have not set up anything, and I already forgot about it. But let me jump into the code, and then I can, sneak peek into my code.
Let's do it.
I think it's a little bit easier if I do that. So here I have a simple application, and I can show. We have a bunch of simple applications for FGA in particular, and everything off of GenAI, and I can share the link for the GitHub repo later. But basically here I have a OpenAI FGA written in Python that is going to be a RAG. And so I think in this scripts folder, I have one. Yes, there's your FGA. Thank God. So basically, yes, it has been a while since I chose this code. So just so you know. And so basically this set up everything from my FGA. And since I'm using the Auth0 FGA, I'm going to need a few informations from the store. For example, the URL of the store, the API token and audience and client ID. And we do use the OpenFGA SDK, so I don't have to write the code to use all of those things myself. Oh, thank God. Here. So here's an example. And so when we initialize our store, we can do it by hand through the dashboard, or you can do it by code. So this script actually does the initialization for me and creates the first user, which is me over there. So I'm going to show you how to do it by hand, and then I can do user and they give it the ID, which will be, in my case, my name. And then I want to give it a doc, and then I can enter the ID. So for example, I can have a public doc, and this person, in this case me, has access to that public doc. And then I can say if I can view or if I can own this document or be a parent of it, depending on the model there. And I can just say that is a viewer. The viewer is enough for the LLM to, provide answers. Oh, it's complaining. Why are you complaining? Oh, it's because the model is not the model that I want. Okay, yes, I forgot to change the model. Let me go back here. In this same simple application, I have a README that has a model. I'm going to just cat it. I think it's easier that way. README. I cannot type for some reason today. It has been one of those days. All right.
It's Friday, so it's very
understandable. And it's a holiday too, So my brain's like, why are you working?
Why are we
today? Yes. So I'm going to change this model, and you can see that my preview here already changes. And basically what I'm defining is that is a user and that is a doc. And what I want to say is a user can be an owner or a viewer of a sad doc. And then I can save this. And then if I go back to my tuple management and review everything again, because of course I had problems before, and I can select the doc, and you're going to see here that the list of objects changed because I don't have folders anymore. And then I can do public. Wait, what's the holiday? Hi. Yes, exactly.
Don't clock out.
Stay here. You cannot go. Stay with us. And so I'm just changing the viewer here, and I can click save, and then the tuple was successfully added. And okay, now you can see everything. So I was adding the tuple. I can add more tuples if I want to, but basically a tuple now has the information of the user and the object that I want this user to access, and what type of the relationship or what type of access does this user has, right? And this is the thing that my RAG application is going to use to say whether or not they can give the answer with a certain document to that person, right? And so I'm just Yes, say that again.
So I'm curious. You might have already explained it, and I perhaps missed it. But it was either viewer, owner, or parent, right? Those were the options.
Yes, so those are the options for the previous model. So I changed the model here. So this is a much more simpler model, just so we can have something simpler to show. And here we have two entities, the user and the document, which is the object that the users are going to have a relationship to. And then we have the owner or the viewer. Owner would probably be what you define as somebody that can edit a document, for example. Okay. And the viewer is somebody that can read the content of the document, but not necessarily edit that document, right?
What would a parent be? So I know but I'm curious.
Yeah, in this case, I don't have a parent. So usually I think the parent would be a folder, has a parent folder.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember the other model that well, to be honest. I apologize. I need to get back to you.
It's just something that I was curious about. Continue.
Yeah, but it depends on how you want to define, right, your model. So my model is simpler, this one. But the other one, you can go as deep, as complex as you want or as you need. So for example, since I'm the user Jess and I only have access to the public doc, I can only view information from the public doc. Any other type of docs that are in my system, I won't have access to that. I saw a message come up. Was that for me?
It was just a joke to you saying that you couldn't type. And someone just
but it's so true. And I type very badly by myself as well. And it gets worse when I change my keyboards. I have two keyboards that I use, but one I use less than the other. And so it's even worse. Don't get me started on that one. Yes. And so, for example, let's create another user here. Let's do user 1. And let's say, for example, user 1 is a user that works on the financial team. And I want that person to be able to access my private doc. Oh, I cannot type. And they are an owner or they are a viewer, but let's say they can view. View is more than enough to go and set the information, right? And so that means that Jazz only has access to the public and user 1 has access to private doc. Another thing that I could do, for example, let's say I could say that all users can have access to the public doc because it is a public doc after all. And if you think of this in a company scenario, let's say that the public doc could be your company website content. So if you go to, for example, outzero.com, let's say you have a copy of all of the information that is on outzero.com in a document, and you want all of the users in your company to be able to see that in order to use the internal chat to ask questions about OutZero, especially useful when everybody's onboarding, for example, to ask questions about the company they are working at. Mm-hmm. And so one way that we could do, for example, user star and see, I have also a shortcut there, just in little kisses. Apologies. But doc, and then I can say public doc, and that would allow everyone to view public doc no matter who they are. So I didn't even need to put like Jess as a viewer of public doc if I didn't want to. But nonetheless, the idea here is that you can define granular access to the resources in your model within the fine-grained authorization system, right? And it can be very specific to a specific doc, or it can be to a collection of documents. It depends on what you want to do. And I'm saying documents because I'm thinking of the example that I have, which are based on documents, but it could be other objects as well. I mean, objects being resources in your company. So anyways, here I have my model. Let's go back to RUG. How data security posture management can be applied to this auth? What this auth?
Data security posture management is. You can add a follow-up question if we're a little confused.
Yes. Send a follow-up question because I'm not sure I understand the question.
All right. Would you guys like to elaborate? Feel free to add it in the comments. All right, continue.
Okay, going on. So what I'm teaching all of this, and you might be thinking, why we are talking about all of this? And no, fine. So one side of this is you can use fine grained authorization with everything, even if it is not Gen AI based, which is kind of fun. Imagine that on your normal, or at least your standard applications that need some sort of more granular access control to resources. That's great. The other side is to Gen AI is so good because then I can implement that in all of my Gen AI applications. And in this case, we did that for everything that is a RAG-based application. So here I have the script for a RAG pipeline, very simple one, very tiny, and it is based on follow-up authentication schemes and hierarchies like parents.
So this was the follow-up that we got from that previous question on Discord.
Okay, so how can data security practice management be applied to this authentication schemes and hierarchy like parents? I don't know how to answer that question, to be honest, because I don't think I understand the question. I need more information.
Yeah, no worries. We can follow up. We can follow up offline maybe with that person.
And this is on the Discord, right? I can definitely join the Discord, which I have not done yet. Sorry. And follow up there. I promise. I love Discord. Discord server, so I will definitely join after this and follow up there. Should they not share more information in chat? Okay, let's go. And so here's my RAG application. It's very simple because in the sense that all of the steps are in this very tiny document on my main.py file. This is Python. For those who don't know Python, welcome to Python. And so we have basically one function that calls all the functions that perform the steps of my RAG pipeline. And so this application has two documents, a private document and a public document. So the public document is public information about this Zico company that we see here, which is a fictional company. My English is failing me. I was going to say a version of a word that doesn't exist. Only exists in Portuguese. I'm Brazilian, so a little bit of more information about me there. And so it reads these documents that are available in the sample application, and it stores into a vector store. So basically it turns the documents into a vector store format with the embeddings, and is going to use OpenAI to create set embeddings. And then we are able to search that vector store based on the query that we have. Right here, I'm defining the query. So we want to say, what is the forecast for Zico? Let's say, based on if you were a public traded company, what would be the forecast for the stocks for Zico? Should I buy stocks? Should I not buy stocks? What is the forecast based on the information you have prior? And so we perform the search of that query within the documents that we have in our vector store, and then we do a map. So this is details of how accessing information within the vector store. And I'm only showing this here because I'm not using any of the very nice, very, very, very powerful frameworks like LangChain, Llama Index, and so on that makes this very much easier. I'm doing this by hand here. So if you're using Llama Index or LangChain and so on to create your vector stores, you're not going to need to do this. They will do it for you, which is one of the reasons why I appreciate them so much for existing. And then what you want to do is, after you have the documents that are relevant for my query, I want to make sure that I'm only going to use the documents that my user has access to. And so the FGA retriever uses the Open FGA SDK that we have. And then I pass all of the documents that I have. And then I pass as well the information for a given user. So I'm going to format here the user. So remember that I had the tuple, the user, which the user ID, which will be here, and then the object, which will be the document, because I have the list of documents before, and the relationship that I want to leverage, which is the viewer relationship. So anybody with a viewer relationship should be able to answer that question with information from the private document, which has financial broadcast and just internal to the financial team. And then what we do is we use this function, which is the retrieve function from the retriever. I know names and they look very similar, which actually performs the action of doing the query on basically filtering out the documents that we have that are relevant to the query that the user passed, plus with the access policy for that given user. So let's say me, I don't have access to the financial data, so I should not be able to see the financial forecast for Zico. But user one, which is part of the financial team, they definitely would be able to see the answer for the financial forecast. And then I use the filtered out sample or filtered out information from all of those documents based on the query and based on the access, and pass that as context for my OpenAI in this case, which is going to be using the chat completion API to format the answer in a human format that is friendly and nice and looks cute. And then, because we need to see the results, I just printed it out with the username and the answer. And I'm going to run here with 2 users. First, for me, they have no access to the financial data, and then user 1, which is part of the financial team. Were you following along? Any questions, drop them in chat. I will be happy to answer those. And I know this might be complex for some people. It took me a while to actually understand all of this pipeline as well. And we have a bunch of blog posts at Auth0 that explain RAG and RAG with access control. I myself published one last year, and I just gave it a little update this year. So, we got information for you if you want it. And so I just ran through the pipeline. I looked to the pipeline, and I'm going to run it now. And basically, we need to wait for things to happen. So what it's going to do is going to load the documents, and then it's going to filter it for the query. And you already gave me a response for Jess. And then it's going to consult FGA, Auth0 FGA, and then filter out the answer. So here, I have the response for Jess. So Jess doesn't have access to the financial data because it's not in the public document. And so we have here, the provided context does not include any forecasts or predictions for Zico. So it filtered out based on my access, great. And for specific forecast projections, that this information or data would be needed, of course, because, the AI cannot figure out something it doesn't have access to. But in the case of user 1 does absolutely have access to the financial data in the private doc because we define that as part of our relation tuple. And now we see the information for the fiscal year 2025. And just a reminder, if you're joining in right now, this is a fictional company, it's not a real company.
Yeah.
Please don't go looking for trying to buy stock from Zico.
One thing I really like about the first sort of output where you didn't have access, and I think Gelareh will agree, I like that it doesn't say you can't access this. You don't have authorization for this. Like similar to like, if you try to log in, and it says like, oh, the email address is bad. Well, now you just need to try a different email address. Or if it says your password is bad, the email address is good, but your password is bad. So I like that it's not telling you don't have access. It's just saying there's no information here to show you. We don't have the
information. Exactly. And like, this is a very important thing to notice if you're using AIs and LLMs. If you start seeing like something wonky, like it says to you what is wrong, maybe it's iffy, something there, it doesn't smell good, and you might want to look into the security concerns there for that type of LLM. So yeah.
I have a great question. Great question coming from chat. It says, is there a way to automate the roles via SCIM or JIT for FGA for the RAG application? There's a lot of acronyms, but is there a way to automate this as far as like the roles and the role-based access and things?
I need a definition. What do you mean by automate? By automatically creating that through the tuple instead of creating through the dashboard like I did?
I think they probably instead of doing like the way you were creating the roles manually, is there a way to automate that whole process? Yeah,
for sure. And so I showed it a little bit, the script that I used as the little, my cheat sheet for this. So here you can actually write code for it. So here, if I had run this script, which I did not do for that store that I was showing you. I just did it for this store that I'm using, which is a different one. You can actually create that information through a script if you want. So let's say here I'm creating only one user, but I could have the data inside of a JSON file or a database and then use that to create the tuples with the OpenFJ SDK, right? So this is a matter of choice. I just wanted to show there in the dashboard because it was easier to explain what was going on. At least in my eyes, is more visual than actually looking at the code. But yeah, does that answer your question, Christian? And if not, please just send a follow-up.
Yes. I want to also highlight a comment from Roselle, just emphasizing how cool this is, and then talking about a security measure that we have at Block. We recently launched this allow list, which she said, it enables it limits users from certain MCP servers. So it's kind of
oh,
this
that's nice
authorization that you're talking about too.
Yeah, that's really nice. Really cool idea.
Oh, sorry. I accidentally put that question up again. Ignore it.
No, that's the one that I need to follow up. It's a good reminder.
Okay, good. And then I think this question is really good for Gelareh. They basically want to know, what is product security and how is AI making the digital world a nightmare for cybersecurity? This might be in your bag.
It's a good one.
That's a really good one.
Okay, I'll start with the easy one.
It's a loaded question.
How much time you got?
I know. I'll try to make it short. Product security is essentially, I'm going to do a bad job. I've been working in this field for a long time, and no one asks me what product security is.
What do you do?
But essentially, you want to make sure that the product that you want to ensure that you want to ensure the security of the product that you're building. And so essentially, while you try to achieve the product goals that you want to implement and you want to achieve, how can you make sure that you are doing this in a secure way, which is a little bit different to, for example, corporate security or from infrastructure security. Now we're looking at the product itself and what can be done. And so, for example, in my case, I'm very much working on cash product security. So how does CashApp, the product, how is that kept secure? How do we make sure that we very much at the core of it, how do we make sure that our customers' data is kept secure, both on the front end as well as the back end? How do we make sure that their data is private? It's really all about making sure that the customers we keep the trust of the customers with the privilege that they give us by giving us their data. How do we make sure that we protect that? So that's the first part. And then the second part is, how does AI make digital world a nightmare? I mean, it's very much what I kind of said at the beginning, right? It's a whole new world where a lot of our traditional ideas of computer security have been turned upside down, and suddenly what we consider to be an attacker model, where we originally said, well, if we have different categories of attackers, different capabilities, and now suddenly those capabilities have been magnified and by magnitudes, right? They're able to access a lot more scale of data. They're able to compute a lot more. They're able to automate. They're able to scale. There's just so much more that they can do, and it really brings to the forefront some of these some of the things that we have to do in terms of visibility. We have to really re-examine what we mean by a program versus a human user, a machine user versus a human user. How do we make sure that we bring in consent from the user there are so many different perspectives that we can look at it. But it's also super interesting, right? Because this is kind of our future, and we have a lot of knowledge already. We are all learning this new area and this new system together right now. Everything is new. You too can become an expert in this area. We're all learning this together, and so it's just super exciting. And I didn't answer this question, but it's just there's so many answers to it.
No,
Yeah,
I
for sure.
think you definitely did answer the question, at least from my point of view. I feel like you did it, and I can tell that it's a loaded question because I said there's so many different things that you can think of when it comes to how it's making cybersecurity a nightmare. But I think you did answer it well. And they're hitting us with another hard follow-up question. Maybe not hard, but sorry, someone's like knocking. I'll ignore that. Okay, so how do we compose patterns like encryption at rest, human in the loop, authentication, authorization into a workable approach for managing agent security? And maybe just you have some thoughts around this, or you and Auth0 have some thoughts around
Use Auth0. No, all jokes aside, it is tough, right? But managing security in general is already tough. That's why we have people like the people here that are working through these things and that are trying to figure out the best way to do it. It's tough, but I think the biggest challenge is for the people that work at your company to understand the difficulties, the risks that are there. For example, the LLM top 10 risks from OWASP and those kind of things, and to go look for people that know about security more than them to learn and to also get help for implementing things. I think it is at the core of programming in general for us to learn about the things that we need to keep our product secure, our users' data secure, our code better. So, for example, I've been at this position before where I didn't understand enough about security. It was kind of 4 years ago. And not to say that I became a specialist in 4 years. Far from it. I'm still learning a few things. So, for example, the last thing that I learned was about MCP servers and how they play a role in today's day and age, right? So I think the path is definitely a learning path. So people need to get used to the idea of learning a little bit more other than just using the tool. So, for example, understand a little bit more about OAuth, how that plays a role, things like device authorization flow, and so on. I think that is one of the best things that people can do in security is to become a lifelong learner, because every day there is something new that you can learn. And it might not be that you're going to become a specialist. Like, for example, I don't consider myself a specialist in security, far from it. But definitely, I'm more knowledgeable than I was 4 years ago when I used to do data science back in Brazil and data engineering and MLOps and machine learning engineering before LLMs were the thing that they are today. And so I think the learning path will help, have a better secure posture for everything that you do. Gelareh, you probably have more tips and ideas there than I do, I guess.
I mean, Jess, you said all the right things. I think one other thing that I want to add is that we are, again, because we are kind of at the forefront of all this development, we have this opportunity to do things the right way. And there are a lot of things. For example, I was talking to, again, my colleague Alex Rosenwig yesterday, and we were talking about how important it is to maybe build security by default, right?
Yeah.
So there is this is just a discussion that we had yesterday, but I think it's kind of something that we can apply to other situations as well. So there is, in MCP, we are trying to build authentication authorization into it. MCP has its own protocol, but what that also allows everyone to do is, as they build their own MCP servers, they build their own versions of authentication authorization per MCP, right? Oh, wow. And really, even if we say you can do OAuth, what ends up happening is that OAuth is just basically a spec, and people implement their own version of OAuth, right? Mm-hmm. Which is where companies like Auth0 it's so wonderful to actually work with them, because they've done the right thing of implementing the spec in the right way, right? And do all the right things, all the security validation in the right places. Now, wouldn't it be fantastic if we could actually move some of the responsibilities of security or authentication authorization from the MCPs to the agents themselves, right? That, for example, would allow us to set up something by default per agent, as opposed to leaving it to the responsibility of each MCP, which also means that we have all these different attack vectors that we would have to also, make sure that we're mitigating at the same time. So this is just an example of maybe an approach that we can consider of how do we make sure we build security into our systems by default, and try to make sure that people build the right things as we are building this whole new ecosystem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One last thought to kind of close us out here. Christian was also saying on YouTube, like, if someone, maybe blocked to open source something like an allow list for MCPs. I know that there are a couple of sites out there that are trying to scan MCPs looking for security issues or malicious code and things like that. But that's going to take a community effort for sure. So if you see those kinds of tools, like, please contribute to them, because that's going to make everything a lot better. We are running a little long on time here, so we're gonna wrap up. We've barely scratched the surface here. Like, there's so much. I mean, we could have like an all-day conversation just on any of these aspects of security. And huge thank you to our guests for like helping us kind of dive a little bit into some of this, and especially for Auth0. Like Gelareh was just saying, having a company that's trying to say, like, hey, we have a standard here, like, we'll help you implement that standard. You don't have to rebuild, you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. It's great that there are established companies out there that are trying to tackle this kind of thing. So kudos to Auth0 for that. And thank you to both of our guests for spending some time with us today. We're going to wrap up. If you are interested in joining our Discord community, we do have a whole Discord community that you can join. Let me grab that link here real quick. Thank you. Ebony's on the ball. So we have a Discord community. We would love you to come by and chat with the team. We have our Goose developers in there. We've got other people just from the community in general that would love to chat with you about that. If you're interested in checking out Goose and seeing what Goose is all about, you can go to block.github.io/Goose. You can download it. We've got a Mac and Linux client. We're working on a Windows client. You can install it for the Windows subsystem for Linux if you have that on your Windows system, but definitely check out Goose, and you can tie in all these MCPs. Auth0's got an MCP server that you can install if you want to use that as well. So you don't have to, maybe write as much Python code as what Jess did. But I mean, I also love Python. So I mean, any excuse to like dive in on Python would be great too. But yeah, we've got a number of links that we can share as well. We'll put those out on Discord, and maybe we can tweet some of them as well. So thank you to both of our guests. We are going to end here. Come check us out again next week. Go ahead, Ebony.
I would like to cut in really quick. I just want to give Jess some time to give a closing as well.
Sure.
It's on the screen for you. Tell us all about Developer Day.
Thank you. If you can share my screen just so people see the face of the website. If you want to learn more about Auth0 AI and how to secure your applications, this event is virtual. It's going to happen at the end of June. Well, middle of June. I always say end of June for some reason. I don't know why. But for the middle of June, me and other developer advocates are going to be there. It's a great opportunity for you to learn more on how to secure GenAI applications. And I heard there are going to be workshops and with Python. If you like Python, you should definitely join. And it's free. So, save the date and stay in the loop and join us for Developer Day and learn more how to secure your GenAI applications.
Thank you. I love
My
that.
my Chinese spiel for the work, you know.
That was good. And I think you sold Ian. You said it's going to be in Python. So he's
Yeah.
happy. Already signed up.
I'm there. I'm
We're
there.
going to have all languages. We're going to have JavaScript and Python. Well, not all languages, but more than just Python. So if people are more JavaScript friendly, there's JavaScript for you too.
Yep.
Thank you. And Gelareh, do you have any parting words before we close this out?
I am so excited about this work that is happening right now, that Auth0 is doing, that we're doing in Block. I love the work that we're doing with Goose, and I'm so excited about. I'm really quite excited about the future, and hopefully it'll be secure.
We'll get there. We'll get there. I mean,
That's the hope.
we've made some good strides, but baby steps,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Nice. Thank you.
Awesome.
And as Ian said, thank you, chat. Thank you, guys. And we will see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.